Welcome to my Yoga Physiotherapy for the Pelvic Floor series. So the pelvic floor are the muscles that fill the inside of your pelvis. So here's your pelvis here. If you look from above down onto your pelvic floor are these muscles that fill the pelvis here. Those muscles move with breath in a certain way. So I'm going to teach you that so you can use those principles throughout the yoga practice. So here's my little drawing. So this is your abdomen here. So the whole area that contains your digestive tract, your belly button's in the middle. So this top curve, that's your respiratory diaphragm. And this bottom green curve, that's your pelvic floor. So as you breathe in, your respiratory diaphragm actually moves down, and that's so that your lungs can fill with air. What happens is your pelvic floor or your pelvic diaphragm also moves down. And that downward motion is actually a lengthening and relaxing movement of that pelvic floor. And then as you breathe out, the reverse happens. So as you breathe out, respiratory diaphragm comes up, air expels from the lungs, and your pelvic diaphragm moves up. So your pelvic floor moves up and it actually tightens a little bit as you breathe out. So I'll remind you of this several times throughout the practice. Welcome to my Yoga Physiotherapy for the Pelvic Floor practice. This practice will be a little bit longer, but it's still more of an introductory practice to pelvic floor yoga. If at any time any of the postures don't feel good for you, please move out of them, lie on your back, go into child's pose, find a position that is safe and comfortable for you. Throughout the practice, the principles of the pelvic floor movement with breath are the most important things. The posture is not nearly as important as that. So at any time if you need a break, take one. Okay, so we're going to start the practice in sitting. So find a comfortable position. It might be kneeling, it might be sitting on a block, it might be sitting cross-legged. Move your tissue away from your sit bones so you can feel your sit bones of your pelvis rooting into the earth. And I'll invite you to close your eyes and just start checking in with your body. Notice where you're holding tension today. Notice if there's anywhere that you want to focus attention on. How do you feel? Do you feel unsettled? Do you feel grounded? Do you want to notice that and then maybe bring an intention into your practice today? As you're checking in, see if you're holding tension anywhere. Shoulders, jaw, neck, pelvic floor. Begin to deepen your breath. Your breath is your keystone of this practice. If you're in doubt, always come back to your breath. And then as you breathe, start to bring your awareness to that pelvic floor movement. So as you're breathing in, you should feel that pelvic floor move down towards the surface you're sitting on. So those muscles on the inside or in between your two sit bones should actually move down as you breathe in. As you breathe out, they should recoil back up slightly. And don't be hard on yourself if you can't feel it yet. It takes time to feel this movement. You'll have the entire practice to focus on it. I'll remind you lots. As you inhale, see if you can move the tissue in between your sit bones down into the mat or the surface that you're sitting on. Throughout the practice, try to focus on full movement of the pelvic floor with breath and nothing else. If your mind starts to wander to your to-do list or what you had going on earlier today, please bring your awareness back to your body, your breath, and your pelvis. But just do it in a gentle way. Our minds are bound to wander a little bit. Okay, great. So now that we've grounded to our breath, let's move to 4-point or hands and knees position. So you're going to place your hands right under your shoulders, knees under your hips. Just check in with your pelvic floor movement here. So breathing all the way down into your pelvis, lengthening your pelvic floor, opening your sit bones, opening your anus. Good. And on your next inhale, arching your spine, looking up. And so you exhale, rounding your spine, angry cat. Inhale, look up, arch your spine. Exhale, round your spine, angry cat. Inhale, look up, open your pelvis up. Exhale, round. Inhale, open your sit bones, open your anus, lengthen your pelvic floor. Exhale. Inhale, open your pelvic floor, open your sit bones. Exhale, rounding. Inhale, arch your spine, lengthen your pelvic floor. And exhale, rounding. Good, keep going, moving the pelvic floor down as you inhale. And as you exhale, rounding. Good. Open your sit bones, open your anus. And exhale, rounding. Good. Inhale, opening that pelvic floor. And as you exhale, your pelvic floor will tighten a little, but you don't need to emphasize that. So you don't need to do a Kegel or a contraction. Good. Breathing in, lengthening, opening. Breathing out, rounding. 3 more. Keep going with your breath. With any of these, it's not about how far you can move. It's about the breath and the pelvic floor movement. Good. Back to just hands and knees position. The next one we're going to do is called modified child's pose. So fingers are spread wide. And you're going to sit back, sit your pelvis back towards your heels, not as far as if you're going into a full child's pose, and you're going to keep your pelvis open. So your sit bones are opening up towards your heels. And as you breathe out, you'll come back to the beginning. So breathe in, keep your pelvis open, sit bones open. Breathe out, back to the beginning. Breathe in, open your anus, uncurl your tailbone. Breathe out. Breathe in, lengthen pelvic floor, open your anus. Breathe out, come back to 4-point. Breathe in, open your anus, open your sit bones. Breathe out. To help you feel this movement, I'm just going to turn so I can demonstrate for you. What you're going to do is you're going to take your right hand, find your sit bone on the right side, so it should be right here. Then you're going to place your fingers in between your anus and your sit bones, so right here. And as you breathe in and sit back, you're going to feel your pelvic floor press into your fingertips. And as you breathe out and come back to the beginning, it should spring back up a little. So breathing in, pressing your pelvic floor into your fingertips, breathe out. Breathe in, pressing your pelvic floor down, breathe out. Good, keep going. Breathe in, lengthening your pelvic floor into your fingertips, breathe out. Breathe in, lengthening, breathe out. Good. Inhale, lengthen pelvic floor, breathe out. There's always child's pose if you need a break. If you lose your breath, just find it again. Inhale, lengthen pelvic floor. Exhale. Inhale, lengthen, open anus. Exhale, good. 2 more on this side. Inhale, lengthen. Good, we're gonna switch to our left. So lifting your left hand up, placing your fingertips just inside of your sit bone, and then breathe in, sit back, pressing the pelvic floor into your fingertips. Breathe out. Breathing in, pressing your pelvic floor into your fingertips. Breathe out. Same thing on this side. It does not matter how far you go. Breathing in, opening, lengthening. Breathe out. Breathe in, lengthening your pelvic floor into your fingertips. Breathe out. And don't worry if you can't really feel this movement with your fingertips yet. That will come with practice. And it's a subtle movement, so it can be hard to feel at first. If you can feel it, good for you. That's excellent. And that's just giving you that feedback to know you're doing it properly. You can also practice having your fingertips in this position and sitting, even sitting on a chair if you'd like. Good, 3 more. Breathe in, expand, open your anus. Breathe out. Breathe in, lengthening, opening. Breathe out. Good. Breathe in. Out. Placing your left hand back down onto the mat. And we'll combine both those sides together. So inhale, sitting back, opening, opening, opening. Exhale. Inhale, open those sit bones, lengthen that pelvic floor. Exhale. Good. And we're going to rest in child's pose. So you can bring your knees apart if you'd like. No need though. And then rest down onto your arms, rest your forehead onto the mat. Don't lose your deep breath here. It's a good position for opening up of the pelvis. So as you inhale, separate your sit bones, lengthen that pelvic floor. If your mind wanders at any point throughout the practice, just gently bring your awareness back to your breath, back to your pelvic floor. One more big breath in. And as you breathe out, returning to the hands and knees position. Big breath in, lengthen pelvic floor. And then as you breathe out, tuck your toes, lift your knees, downward facing dog. So the first one of the practice, so pedal your feet out if you need to. Make any adjustments you need. Fingers should be spread wide apart. Try to have a soft elbow. Try not to lock your elbows. And our goal in this position is to lift our pelvis towards the sky, towards the ceiling, and lengthen our pelvic floor as we breathe in. Bend your knees if you need to. And just note that it's more challenging in this position to feel that pelvic floor movement. If you don't feel it at all, don't worry. Just focus on the breath. Good. Inhale, lift your right foot high towards the ceiling. And then exhale, place it on the outside of your right hand. Turn your right foot to a 45-degree angle, and then place your left foot onto the mat, untucking your toes. This should feel like a stretch on your inner thigh on the right side. If there's no stretch yet, you can come down onto your forearms, or you could rest your forearms on a block. And this can be a really tight area for a lot of people, this inner thigh. So find where it feels like a good stretch and then hold. Tap into your pelvic floor movement again with your breath. Just notice that the stretch is pulling on the front part of your pelvis, so closer towards your pubic bone. You might even have a stretch on the front of your left thigh. And this can be an emotional area for people. You might feel like you have some emotional tension in here, so just try to meet that with compassion and kindness. Don't push through it if you don't feel like you can today. Move into child's pose if you need, or just go less deeply into the stretch. Good. If you're on your forearms, come back up onto your hands. Tuck your left toes, lift your left foot, and then place your left or your right foot back to meet your left, downward facing dog. Few nice breaths here. Really lengthening your pelvic floor as you inhale, opening your sit bones up towards the sky. Really lengthening that pelvic floor. And then on your next inhale, lift your left leg high. And then exhale, place your left leg on the outside of your left foot. Turn your foot out to a 45-degree angle. And then right knee comes down, right toes untuck. Stay here if this is a big enough stretch for you. You can even put your hands up on something if you want less of a stretch. Or again, option to come down onto your forearms if you need more of a stretch. This is a good position for me here. So again, breathe into the pelvic floor. Noticing the stretch on the front of your pelvis on the left side and the inner thigh. And you might feel a little bit of a stretch on the front of your thigh on the right side. And again, noticing if there's emotional tension on this side and just meeting it with compassion. Allowing yourself to breathe through it if you can. Reminding yourself every inhale, you're really opening up that pelvic floor, even if it's hard to do in this stretch. And if this side feels different than the other, that's okay. Just notice that. Good. If you're on your forearms, come back up onto your hands. Tuck your right toes, lift your right knee, and step your left foot back to meet your right downward facing dog. Notice how you feel now that you've done both of those stretches. Do you have an easier time opening your pelvic floor up to the sky? Is it harder? Good. On your next inhale, lift your right foot high towards the ceiling, and then put your right knee towards your right wrist, right foot towards your left wrist, coming into pigeon pose. Rest your left knee down, untuck your toes, and you can even move your left knee backwards a little. Now we're trying to get a stretch on the glute muscle at the outside of your hip on the right side. If this feels like enough of a stretch, great. If you need to rest your hands on something, find something to rest your hands on. Or if you need more, come down onto your forearms, rest your forehead down. With every inhale, try to lengthen your pelvic floor again. And it'll feel different with this pull on the back side of your pelvis. And with every exhale, try to sit your sit bone on the right side, closer towards the mat on the right side. Good. Inhale, lengthening pelvic floor. And again, there could be some emotional tension in here, so just notice it. Breathe into it if you can. If you're on your forearms, you can slowly make your way back up onto your hands. Tuck your left toes, lift your left knee, and then step your right foot to meet your left downward facing dog again. And just notice how your hips might feel compared to before. Really opening your pelvic floor up towards the sky as you inhale, lengthening those muscles. Good. Next inhale, lift your left leg high, and then bring your left knee towards your left wrist, left foot towards your right wrist, placing your right knee down, untucking your toes. Bring your right knee back down the mat a little bit, finding a stretch in the glute or the outside of your hip on the left side. If this is enough, stay here. If you want more, come down onto your forearms, resting your forehead onto your arms or onto the mat. Same thing on this side. As you inhale, lengthening your pelvic floor. And as you exhale, trying to sit your sit bone on the left side towards the mat. If at any time you lose your breath or you lose your pelvic floor awareness, just gently bring your awareness back to that pelvic floor, maintaining your deep breath. Lengthening that pelvic floor on the inhale, opening up. Noticing the pull on the back of your pelvis. Good. If you're on your forearms, straighten your arms back up, palms on the mat. Tuck your right toes, lift your right knee, and step your left foot to meet your right downward facing dog. This is your final downward facing dog of the day. Make it your best one, lifting your pelvis up towards the ceiling. Inhale, really lengthening your pelvic floor, opening your sit bones. Good. On your next inhale, look between your hands. And as you breathe out, walk or jump your feet in between your hands. Forward fold. Heel toe your feet wide as the mat, moving your hands out of the way. And on your next inhale, you're going to sit down into a deep squat. Put your arms on the inside of your knees, pushing your palms together. Deep yogi squat. This is a great position for stretching your pelvic floor. 2 more deep breaths here. If this is too hard for you, of course, take a seat. Excellent. Sit your hips down onto the mat and lie onto your back. Just check in with your body briefly. Keeping your deep breath going. Inhale to prepare. And as you exhale, lift your right knee towards your chest. Interlace your fingers around your right shin and hug your knee into the right side of your chest. This again is a different position for the pelvis, so it might be different to feel that pelvic floor movement, but don't lose that. Keep that awareness as you inhale, trying to open and lengthen the pelvic floor. And what you're doing in this position is you're compressing your ascending colon, so part of your digestive tract. Your pelvic floor helps control your bowel function. One of its many jobs. Good, 2 more breaths here. Good, you can release that leg. Windshield wiper your right leg. And then inhale to prepare. And exhale, bringing your left knee towards your chest, interlacing your fingers around your left shin, hugging your leg into your chest. And as you breathe, as you inhale, you're really opening, lengthening that pelvic floor. And on this side, we're compressing the descending colon. So again, helping with digestion, helping the pelvic floor do a great job. breaths. Good. Release your left leg. Windshield wiper your feet, loosening the hip joint. And then bring both knees up to your chest and give yourself a nice squeeze, a nice hug. So for this one, this is a good position for that open pelvic floor position. So you can stay here if you'd like, or if you want more, come open into happy baby. So bottoms of your feet towards the ceiling, and you have option to hold on to the outside of your feet here, or take your 2 fingers and hook them around your big toe. Bringing your legs nice and wide. And if you want, if it feels good, you can rock side to side or forward and back, or just stay still. And in this position, you're really opening your legs, you're opening your pelvis, opening your hips. So as you breathe in, same thing, you're trying to lengthen that pelvic floor open. And you might find that you're actually already quite open in this position. And at any time, you can bring your knees back to knee to chest if you get tired. And 3 more breaths in happy baby. Good. Bring your legs back towards your chest. Hug your knees to your chest. And then let go with your hands and let your feet plant onto your mat. So knees stay bent, feet flat on your mat. Lift your pelvis up a little, move it to the right. Allow your knees to fall to the left. Open your right arm up to the right side of the room, looking at your fingertips. You don't really need to be thinking about your pelvic floor in this position. You can just enjoy the twist. Enjoy how much focus you've given your pelvis, and just allow yourself to just notice your breath. Untwist. Lift your pelvis up to the left. Let your knees fall to the right. Open your left arm up towards the left side and enjoy the twist. If your mind's starting to wander at this point, just bring your awareness back to your body, back to your breath. And then slowly start to untwist. Bring your pelvis back into the center of the mat. Stretch your legs out, splaying your feet as wide as you'd like, arms as wide as you'd like, palms up. Our final restful posture here. Check in with your body again. Check to see where you're holding tension now. Any tension in your face or in your jaw or your pelvic floor. Just allow yourself to breathe normally and sink into this restful position. Maybe revisiting that intention that you set at the beginning of class. And spend as much time here as you would like. Thank you for being here with me today. Your pelvic floor will thank you. Namaste.